this is the time of the year where we begin to think about ways to become better me's, right? I mean, it's the New Year resolution. It's the how do I set goals to become better financially, to become better physically, to become better when it comes to relationships, to become better when it comes to just maybe I want to read more books this year. I want to walk more miles this year. I want to go on more dates this year. I want to, you insert the blank. Well, those are great. I want us to begin to look at something that when it comes to a church, our mission is to inspire people to follow after Jesus. And the reason that's our mission is because I genuinely believe that when we follow after Jesus, it makes our lives better and it makes us better at lives. And you've heard me say this before. It's not because when we follow Jesus, it's all of a sudden there's a windfall of money and all of our health diagnoses go away and everything is just rainbows and unicorns and peaches and ice cream. Because life still happens. And when it happens, when we're squeezed, when life begins to get us down, it's in those moments that we begin to see the real me, the real we. So what I want us to do is I want us to take a few moments just to begin to process and think about, maybe give us some handles that we can begin to work on when it comes to our New Year's resolutions around our spiritual well-being and around our lives when it comes to how we follow after Jesus. You see, Paul was this remarkable leader. He was kind of the pastor of pastors, if you would. Paul would go around the Mediterranean Sea and in little port cities and even in cities beyond the ports, he would go and he would encourage, he'd write letters to local churches and encourage them and inspire them and challenge them to continue in their journey of following Jesus. And in one such letter, as he was writing to the church at Galatia, he made this statement. He wrote to these individuals in the midst of a group of people that were trying to figure out when it comes to following Jesus, what do we need to add? What do we need to put in? There's a lot of religious rituals that I feel like we need to continue to hold on to. And Paul says, when it comes to the fruit that are coming from a follower of Jesus, this is what it should look like. These are the characteristics that should be found in one that's following after Jesus. He says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. When it comes to one that's following after Jesus, the characteristics of one that is a Jesus follower should be one of love, of joy, of peace, of patience, of kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. But what I found in life is that when life happens, we very rarely drift into those fruit, right? I mean, if we're not intentional about our walk with Jesus, if we're not intentional about following after Jesus, if we're not intentional about listening in, leaning in, and doing as He's called us to do, we drift not towards these, we drift away. We drift towards fear. We drift towards discontentment. We drift towards a lack of patience. We drift towards being more harsh and less loving and self-centered and selfish. But Paul would say a follower of Jesus, the fruit that emanates from them, especially when they get squeezed, is one that showcases love. It's the you beside you that matters. It's the fact that when I don't know what to say or do, I'm going to ask the question, what does love require of me? It's patience. There's those people in our lives, there's those sandpaper people, right, that they rub us the wrong way. They know how to push your right buttons and your wrong buttons, and they get the best of you. They're the youngest child that you just can't get past the fact that they're asking you why 38 times a day. Gentleness. To be gentle? Why? Self-control. I mean, but I worked so hard today. Why should I exude self-control? You see, Paul is encouraging us and he's telling us as a follower of Jesus, one of the things that we should be known for is these fruit emanating from our lives. So as we begin the new year, I've got a task, a challenge, an encouragement I would like for you to do. I would like for you to take these fruit and assume that they are gauges on the dashboard of your life. And I want you to just think about, when it comes to your life, how loving are you? Where would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? When it comes to joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness, when it comes to all of these fruit, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And then I want you to follow that up with you deciding that this year I'm going to focus on one of those fruit. Maybe it's the one that you scored lowest on, or maybe it's one of the bottom few of your fruit, but maybe it's one that you're like, I need to get better at this. Maybe it's patience. When we were just mentioning the word patience, there's somebody that comes to your mind. Maybe it's a colleague at work. Maybe it's a family member or a friend. Maybe it's a neighbor. And every time that they come into your world, you just can't help but the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you begin to get a little bit defensive towards them. Maybe it's self-control. I mean, you know what you've got to do. You know the habits and the health diet. You know what you need to practice. But when it comes to self-control, it's so difficult because life is so crazy. You go to work, you come home, and it's so easy just to sit back and to pull out the phone and just to disengage from everybody. But maybe this year you need to put the phone down and re-engage with your kids. Maybe this year you need to set your alarm 15 or 20 minutes early so you can wake up and spend time reading the Bible, reading the life of Jesus, reading the words of Paul, and praying and asking God, what would you have me to do today? God, what does it really look like to follow you? Maybe for you, there's this big love piece. Maybe joy is waning in your life. What of these fruit do you need to work on this year? And I want to challenge you to begin to make an action plan. What are you going to do over the next 3 to 4 weeks to begin to focus on that fruit? For me, I'll tell you, my fruit it's self-control. It's one I've been working on. I mean, last year, one of the things I did to really fight through that is I joined a local gym and I've been going on a regular basis. And I'll tell you, it gets the body rolling and it's exciting because self-control begets self-control, which begets self-control. The more controlled I am in the way I live my life, the more controlled I am in the way I spend my time and in what I eat. I'm all of a sudden more conscious about what I'm supposed to eat because of the exercise I've been doing. And so, but there's still more work for me to do, and there's action plans I need to put in place to ensure that when people see me, they see the fruit that Paul would recommend, the fruit that Paul would say emanates from a follower of Jesus. Because the truth is, we never know when we're going to get squeezed. We never know when life is going to come crashing down. And when it does, my hope and my prayer for me and for you is that we would be able to squeeze out these fruit, love and joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So, what's your fruit? What's your plan? How are you this year going to work hard to make that fruit a better fruit in your life? Hey, thanks for joining us today. Next week, we're going to be right back in person at Lizzie Curtis Elementary School. If you live in and around the Fort Worth area, we would love for you to be our special guest. We've got environments for your preschooler, your elementary kids, your teenagers, as well as your adults. And we've got guest service volunteers that are eager and ready to meet you at the door. Maybe your resolution was this year you want to get your family re-engaged in the local church. We would love for you to come and see what North Tarrant Church is all about. And if you live out of the DFW Metroplex, we'd love for you to join us online next week, whether you're in person or online, as we begin a brand new series entitled Paper Walls. I mean, the truth is, this is the time of year we make resolutions, right? And then just a couple weeks down the road, we begin to make excuses as to why those goals did not happen. Well, we're going to start the conversation next week is how do we keep those excuses from getting the best of your sanity? So I look forward to seeing you next week, either in person or online, as we begin our brand new series, Paper Walls. Hey, you have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year.